Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 787 to 789 for the 20th to the 22nd of April. And for those that do not know, or you're new to DPA or haven't watched a lot, DPA has been covering this war since day one. Probably the only YouTube channel that covered the war since day one. So in case you do not know, and there's news for you. This map, I decided to put it back to public again, and so the link is in the description below. Through this map, you'll be able to see all the information that I report on. Every information is sourced. There's a link to the original source, where it come from, and so everything, there is a source. Everything that I report, there's a source. I don't make things up. So this used to be public, and then I put it back into paywall because of unstable views and revenue, and thankfully, to all the patrons and all the supporters that has been supporting me over the past 2 years, or 1 to 2 years, I able to continue to report on this. But it seems like this paywalling of the map is running its course. A lot of people have decided not to continue, so I still have a lot of supporters on Patreon, over 100, I think almost 200. But I think that it's time to open this up back to public, and hopefully people who are already supporting will continue to support DPA's work by not unsubscribing, because I set this back to public. And for those that appreciate my work and you really find the map very interesting, very helpful, all the news in the Ukraine war, I mean the meaningful ones, are all on this map. So I will appreciate you guys will support me on Patreon to give me a cushion, a financial cushion, because whatever is happening right now, YouTube is not really pushing DPA's videos, and there's actually not insufficient views to keep things going for a long time. And so do consider. And also yeah, anyway, this map is in the description below. You can check it out. For those that do not know, I can actually show you. Let me do this. So there's actually 5.6 million views. This was mostly come from the time where I haven't set it to private, so which is where it come from. So anyway, and also yeah, the frontline changes, I already posted 2 frontline changes report, so you can actually check it out over the DPA war channel and also on the main channel. I'm double posting on both channels because again it's the same problem. YouTube is not pushing, so the main channel's video will be delayed. There'll be delayed telecast. DPA war will have the video first. This is also to fight against the algorithm, so I cannot post them together. I realize I post them together, one of the DPA war will suffer. So this is what it is. And also there is still frontline changes report over the past 24 hours, but there's only one over at Ocheretyne at the Avdiivka Front. So this is Avdiivka city, and Ocheretyne is over here. So based on the previous frontline changes report, we already reported that the front line has become something like this. And based on the latest information from Ukrainian sources, Deep State UA, the Ukrainian mapping now shows that the Russian forces have captured the entire center part of Ocheretyne. And they also have corroborated that the southern part has entirely been captured by the Russian forces. So this probably come after the Russian side posted a video of them waving the flag in the center of Ocheretyne over here. And so there's also reports saying that there's no gunshots being heard in that video. I didn't really watch that video, so I'm not sure. But based on this information, the Ukrainian forces may have already redrawn out of sight, and there is actually no ongoing battle in this area here because they've withdrawn probably a distance away. So Russian forces have taken this area here. And it's also important to note that the Russian forces are conducting airstrikes very close to the front line, with one over here just off the railway line and another one over the high-rise building sector of this region. So which means that the the Ukrainian forces that are holding the defense in this area here is under severe pressure to the point where they have to redraw. So situation is extremely bad for the Ukrainian forces around here, and the Russian forces seems to be surging this town to quickly capture it, and it looks like they are going to be able to do it very, very soon. And so that's all for the frontline changes report. We go into the strategic and tactical reporting. And first thing first was the airstrike or missile strike on Ukrainian airport, where the MiG-29 was destroyed on the ground while they are still parking at the airport. It was destroyed. There is video footage of it with Russian drones flying all over this area here, capturing all these footages to prove that they actually managed to do it. And there is also a S-300 getting destroyed over at Dnipro. And this is also shown in video footage. So then the appearance of this S-300, and as per previous reports, previous SITREP, that we have already suddenly seeing the increase in the number of destroyed S-300s and whatnot, seems to suggest that the Ukrainian forces may have pushed their air defense system that was stationed in the western part of Ukraine over to the eastern part to help support the military operations over in the east, because most of the air defense systems over in the eastern part has been destroyed. But so far, it's not just S-300. There's also Strelas and also other form of air defense system, but many of them seems to get destroyed once they are detected. So this is just something that I've noted, that I've observed. Over at the Kherson Front, we still have fighting reported at Krinky. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, all 3 days, 20 to 22nd, the Russian forces allegedly is still attacking Krinky, and the Ukrainian forces are still having to defend Krinky. But of course, the easy way to stop the Russians from attacking Krinky is to not be at Krinky, because this beachhead is pretty pointless. The Ukrainian forces are unable to surge forces into Krinky. They are unable to do mass crossings to create a massive breakout out of Krinky, which means that this entire operation over at Krinky is utterly pointless. Soldiers are getting killed for no reasons, and they are continuing to get killed for no reasons. And the entire village is entirely flattened right now. Russian forces have conducted so much artillery strike and airstrike on this village, which is totally flattened by now. Over across the northern part of the northern half of the Dnipro River, there is a Russian Defense Ministry report on their shelling of Berislav, and there is also other geolocation. There's an electronic warfare equipment getting hit by a Lancet over in the northern part of Lvove, and Lvove itself guided missile attack from a helicopter, as well as over at Ocheretyne, also getting hit by a guided missile strike of helicopters. The fact that helicopters are being used to conduct missile strikes on Ukrainian positions also shows that there is actually no air defense systems in this area here to help to defend the Ukrainian positions from this kind of strikes. Helicopters are usually a bit more susceptible to air strikes, to surface to air missile systems. And the fact that helicopters are being used, just shows the terrible situation the Ukrainian forces are in over at the Kherson Front. Over at this Dnipro region or Kharkiv region, there is also strikes being reported at Zolota Balka, Nikopol, as well as Vyshetarevka. So these are all Russian Defense Ministry reports of Russians striking this position. So it's a bit interesting that they are being struck in this area here. There's a possibility that there is some kind of a gathering of Ukrainian forces in this area here that might threaten a possibility of crossing, which is why they are getting struck. And there was this very famous secret plan, that the Ukrainian forces tried to storm and capture Onohoda as well as the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant more than a year ago. It never turned out to happen because the plan was revealed. It got leaked, so they never did it. But I think the most it's another thing important to note is that this river is now doesn't look so thick. It's actually a lot more narrower. They have slimmed down. They go on a diet, so it's no longer this thick. So it is actually easier to cross, but this is still pretty unlikely because the Ukrainian forces still lack the the equipments to actually do mass crossing. But the most credible possibility is the Lota Balka. If Ukrainian forces get it over here, this is one of the closest crossing, and of course the river is much thinner right now, so crossing over here is much more of a possibility, and they can actually storm quickly over to do a blockage. They can actually block this choke point and create a massive gathering of forces in this area here to then break out. But of course, yeah, it's going to be really hard, for the Ukrainian forces to do this, because even if they manage to go over, they still have a massive lack of equipment. So we shall see how this progress. Over the Zaporizhzhia Front, so this is Zaporizhzhia city, and this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. So at the Zaporizhzhia Front, Russian forces continue their operations in this area here, with fighting reported at Stepove, Novoandrievka, Robotyne, and Chervony. These three, Stepove and Novoandrievka and Chervony, is most likely just positional warfare. That means they are just shelling, doing firing from range. They are not attacking in an assault. Robotyne is a bit more uncertain because there is reports by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Deep State UA about Russians attacking the Ukrainian positions. So we will wait and see how this progress. There's no frontline change, however. North of Robotyne, there was an infantry fighting vehicle getting hit by an FPV drone. So that's about it from this area here. And we over at the Huyapole sector, there is a Melinivka. Melinivka continued to get struck by Russian guided missile attack from helicopters. This Melinivka is like the magnet for Russian helicopters. They just keep getting struck by guided missiles. But nothing ever happens over there. We shall continue to wait and see how this progress. And that's all from the Zaporizhzhia Front. Over at the Donetsk Front, this is the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, there is Russian offensive continuing over this area here, over at Staromayoske, Ocheretyne, Voleda, Mikhailske, Vodian, over southwestern part of Novomikhailivka. At Novomikhailivka itself, Vodyeda, Ukrainian forces counter-attack, Russian forces attacking south of Georgievka, at Georgievka, as well as Krasnohorivka. So this is the strategic situation over at the Donetsk Front. And we go in depth a bit. So over at the Velika Novosilka sector, this is Velika Novosilka. This sector over here, Russian forces are attacking Staromayoske and Ocheretyne. There is some geolocations in this area here. There is Russian forces geolocated south of Ocheretyne, showing the Russian forces indeed are conducting assault around this area here. And there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by airstrikes. So this airstrike, and this is just a geolocation of Ukrainian forces around here. This is an airstrike, and then Staromayoske itself is also an airstrike. And as I mentioned before in previous SITREP, Russian forces seems to be able to now coordinate airstrikes more and more closely with the land forces, the ground forces, which means that these glide bombs are getting more and more closer to what we know to be close air support. They are now able to conduct close air support for the ground offensive, hitting targets just very near to the front line, and are able to support the ground offensive. So this is a very, very bad news for the Ukrainian forces. Over at Nikoshnye, there is a air defense system getting destroyed. A Strela 10, as just now as mentioned, getting hit by a Lancet. So which is kind of irony, because Strela 10s are supposed to take out targets like Lancet. But no, they got destroyed by Lancet, and this just shows the evolution of warfare in Ukraine war. And this is going to be a disaster for any military around the world, with the proliferation of drones. Over at this Voleda sector, so in this area here, Russian forces reportedly are conducting fire attack or an offensive towards Voleda, according to the Russian Defense Ministry in yesterday's report. Ukrainian Defense Ministry in today's morning reported that there is fighting at Mikhailske. So maybe the Russians are actually pushing in this area here, maybe. And the fact that they mentioned Mikhailske means that the reports about fighting towards Vodian might be coming from the east. So maybe this is what the Vodian reports are referring to. and this might actually corroborate with the changes over in the southwestern part of Novomikhailivka, where the Russian forces have made progress over in this area here, as we have covered over in the frontline changes report. And the Russian forces are pushing towards Vodian in this direction and are aiming to cut off the highway between Konstantinivka and Voleda. So over at Novomikhailivka itself, the Russian forces have captured the entire of Novomikhailivka, and this has prompted the Russian Defense Ministry to announce that the York group of forces have fully captured Novomikhailivka, and this capture has been predicted for a long time because of the Russians' quick push over on the eastern part. They managed to hold the central part for a long time, and then now we are seeing the rest of the push. And now the fighting is going to go towards Paraskovyievka. And the Ukrainian forces seems to still hold certain part of this northern Dacha region, but unlikely to hold this position. They're probably going to retreat to Paraskovyievka because there is no retreat route northward, so they have to go westward. And with the Russian forces now coming from the south, they are able to flank north and able to cut off the retreat route, which means the Ukrainian forces will be stranded with this other push coming in the north from the eastern part. So yeah, I don't think the Ukrainian forces will hold this position. This is likely to fall to the Russians very, very soon. And according to Russian information, they said that the Ukrainian forces actually withdrew all the way to Konstantinivka. So might not be Paraskovyievka, but that's the Russian claims. I don't think so. I think the Ukrainians will defend Paraskovyievka because, yeah, Russian claims of Ukrainian withdrawals tends to be inaccurate. So I believe that they will defend Paraskovyievka, because if they don't defend this area here, what will happen is that Russian forces will be able to attack from two different directions, and from the north and from the south. This will just make this small little town collapse much faster. So this is unlikely to be the case. I think the Ukrainian forces will hold a defense over at Paraskovyievka and also in the southern part of Konstantinivka. I believe this is what they will do. So that's all for this area here. Further up north, there is a geolocation. This is brown color. Russian forces are geolocated within where we know where the front Russian position is. So this confirms Russian presence in that area. Ukrainian forces over at Georgievka getting hit by artillery. So this is geolocated. Russian forces allegedly are still attacking Georgievka, but I don't think much about it. Russian forces are pushing in the south of Georgievka, so they're probably going to go down the highway and probably able to hit north or whenever they feel like, that's the place. So we will continue to wait and see how this progress. The thing about military operations is that even if you can push through, there's no enemy there, you can get stretched. Your logistics can get stretched. You still need the front line to move together with you. So yeah. If not, then you're going to have some logistical issues to deal with. So over at the Battle of Krasnohorivka, we have news finally from Battle of Krasnohorivka in the southern part. As per mentioned in the frontline changes report, Russian forces are now retaking the southern neighborhood of Krasnohorivka. This is the second time they have captured this area here. After the first time in round 1, they got kicked out by the Ukrainian forces after capturing it. So now we are seeing this return of the Russian forces again. And the Russian forces are also pushing in the southeastern part of Krasnohorivka. But this area here is unlikely to do much because this entire area here is heavy fortifications, heavy trenches. And all these trenches are well built because they are all built before the Ukraine war. So as this is where the active front line was for the Ukrainian Civil War. So this is going to be a hard place to take. I think the Russian forces are going to struggle going through this area here unless the Ukrainian forces decided to abandon position. So we'll wait and see how this progress. In terms of the support fires coming from the Russian side, we are seeing artillery strike over this high-rise building, just off the high-rise building. Along the main road, there is a grad attack, the rocket artillery attack. Over on the other position, there is also artillery attacks. So all these are very close support with the Russian forces are very, very close by. So we are seeing more and more well-organized offensive operations, combined arms operations by the Russian side. So this is actually very bad and it's a double whammy because the Ukrainian forces has lost a lot of their experienced troops, and which means that while the Russian forces are conducting operations at a higher and higher level, Ukrainian forces are losing all their best men and they are unable to conduct better operations in comparison, which means that it's double worse. So we'll wait and see. Further up north, in the northern half of Krasnohorivka, there is airstrikes being reported as well as helicopter strikes. So this is bad. Very bad. That means Russian helicopters has arrived in this area here. So yeah, this is supposed to be a helicopter, but it looks ugly. So anyway, so that's all for Krasnohorivka. We move into the Avdiivka Front. So Avdiivka Front situation is actually very bad as well for the Ukrainians. Russian forces are attacking in the Nevelsky region over at Povomaysky, Netelove, towards Yasnorodbrodivka, Umansky, Semenivka, Bedaichi, Novobakhmutivka, Ocheretyne, Novokalinove, as well as Kreminna. Ukrainian forces counterattack over at Novobakhmutivka, Semenivka, Bedaichi, and Umansky and Povomaysky. So this is the current situation, strategic situation for the Avdiivka Front, and as you can see, Russian forces are pushing literally everywhere. So, and for those that do not know, especially those that don't watch the DPA's report regularly, Russian side have put an entire army group purely on the Avdiivka Front, entire army group. So one army group fighting one front, which is why there is all this progress happening. That is almost inhuman to expect Ukrainian forces to be able to hold this kind of position unless the Ukrainian forces are able to draw more troops into this area here, which would then makes this a bigger slaughter for both sides. But tentatively, this is the situation. At Kharkivka, there is an airstrike being reported. So over at this area here, Ukrainian mapping, Deep State UA reported that this breakthrough from the Russian side is because their troops abandoned their positions without permission. So I did a video on the main channel complaining about this. You can go and watch it. It's a bit inhumane to expect that the Ukrainian forces are supposed to hold positions in against overwhelming odds. Because if the enemy is really pushing you with overwhelming odds and you have a chance to escape, my personal take is that you should, so that you can regather and then do a counter attack to recapture the position, rather than just die there in the trenches. So anyway, there is still Ukrainian forces gathering in this semi-encircled area here. Russian forces could attack in the pincer and encircle this entire force. And there is this small little attack, this small little push on this area here that the Russian forces may have captured, has already captured based on reports from the Ukrainian mapping. However, this is going to be a difficult place for the Russians to capture because this is a very heavily mined area, so don't expect much changes around this area here. So and we move up north. There's report about fighting at Netelove already, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 21st and the 22nd, clearly showing that the Russian forces are now progressing from Povomaysky towards Netelove. However, Russian Defense Ministry continued to report that the Ukrainians are counter-attacking towards Povomaysky, so we will wait and see how this progress. Fighting is reported towards Yasnorodbrodivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So Russian Defense Ministry did not mention anything. These are all reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry about Russians pushing Yasnorodbrodivka. Umansky, the battle of Umansky still have not really went into true effect. There is fighting being reported, but I think the front line did not really change. There's a lot of skirmishes in this area here. Bedaichi continues to be, cut in half, with Ukrainian forces continue to control the western part of Bedaichi. However, the forces defending this area here are not having a good day. There is there's shelling on them, artillery shelling. There's a thermobaric missile attack, and there's also rocket artillery hitting them. So the Ukrainian forces have sent in reinforcement to hold Bedaichi. However, they are going into a death trap. But of course, this is war. I don't think they have much choice. To hold the position, you must die. So this is what they're trying to do right now. But I'm not sure how long they can hold on, because the Russians are now starting to use the TOS-1A, which is the thermobaric rockets, which will instantly kill everyone in the vicinity of the strike. So that's going to be quite bad. The biggest breakthrough, of course, is Ocheretyne, with Russian forces now capturing the entire central part and the southern part of Ocheretyne. So this breakthrough is very significant. I think that Ukrainian forces may have withdrawn to the outskirts of the town, and the Russian forces are probably likely to quickly storm and capture the rest of this settlement. This will allow the Russian forces to have a foothold and to go around the main defense. As I mentioned multiple times before, Ukrainian forces built a second line of defense after the fall of Avdiivka city at this area here. However, the other established lines are around here, and the Russian forces could basically just go around this defense line and totally ignore it or go behind it, and similar for the other side. So this is the main problem with Ocheretyne, which is also why the Russians are pushing so hard in that area to create this corridor and to break through the Ukrainian lines. There's some kind of water body going through here, which is also why it's much more harder and much more better for the defenders. So much more harder for the Russians to attack. So this is the current situation. So if we look north, the pre-war entrenchments are only here, and there's nothing being seen around here based on the satellite imagery from the Google Maps, which means that the Russian forces are going to have a lot of grounds to penetrate through if the Ukrainians are not careful. So, and the main thing, I think that the main target will be Pokrov. But we shall see how this progress. A lot of geolocation over at Novokalinovo as well, with airstrikes being conducted. And important thing to note is that these airstrikes are so close. These are just less than a kilometers from the front line. As I mentioned just now, the Russian fat bombs or the glide bombs are becoming close air support, and they are striking within a kilometers distance from the front line. And this will basically mean that the Ukrainian forces will be forced to redraw, or they will be wiped out in the airstrike, which then the Russian forces can make this push into Novokalinovo. And it's also important to note that the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on their latest report started to say that fighting has reached Kharkiv. So although they still did mention Novokalinovo, but of course Novokalinovo can be attacked from the south, and maybe the north from the east. Kharkiv might be actually attacked. We're not sure. So the current situation is very bad in this area as well. So, and if the Russians are able to capture Kharkiv and Ocheretyne, they can totally bypass this heavy entrenchment around here and pincer attack Arkhangelsk, and then create a massive buffer zone and a forward operating base that allows the Russian forces to push further. So this will be a disaster. So that's what it is right now. Over at the Niu-York Front, Russian forces are reportedly attacking Alexandropol, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 20th, but this is a one-off, so probably a diversionary attack. Ukrainian forces attack over at New York region and Sumy, Russian forces attacking at Pivdeny. But these are all just skirmishes. These are all not serious, because the entrenchment around here is ridiculous. It's not just on the Ukrainian side. The Russian side here is also super heavily entrenched. So this is a static front line. This is like a World War I style front line. There's nothing is supposed to happen around this area here. So don't expect anything from this front. Over at the Bakhmut Front in the southern flank, there's nothing much. So it's basically Klishchiivka, fighting at Klishchiivka. And there is a geolocation of Lancet and artillery strike over at the Canal region, as well as in the Stopochki region. Over at this center flank, the Russian forces are attacking over at Ivaniske, and they are also attacking towards Chasivya, attacking at Novi, fighting reported at Bodanivka. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Bodanivka. So this is the strategic situation in this area here. At Bodanivka, Russian Defense Ministry have acknowledged and announced the capture of Bodanivka on the 21st. And then and over at the Ivanytsky itself, according to Ukrainian mapping, this northern part of Ivanytsky has been captured by the Russian forces. Ukrainian forces still continue to seemingly have some presence in Ivanytsky in this area here, but this is not according to the Russians. Russian mapping have already concluded this entire area has been captured, and in fact their mapping shows all the way like this. But I've invalidated this claim because of the geolocation of Ukrainian forces here. So in case you have missed it, so which is why the mapping looks very different from the Russian mapping. So the Russians are supposedly attacking down the highway. So this is where the Ukrainian forces are trying to stop them. And so far, very successfully, the Russian forces are unable to move out from this area here effectively. Fighting continues in the forest. Nothing much is known about it. And Russian forces are still holding their positions outside of Nove. They are conducting strikes. Wrong color. Conducting strikes in Nove itself. There is this is artillery strike. This is air strike, and then this FPV drone strike. So it's just strike. They are softening the Ukrainian positions around here, and this is also another one of the front line that that invalidates Russian claims that Ukrainian forces have withdrawn. So there is all this report about Ukrainian forces withdrawing from Nove, and about this very fast Russian push to have captured Nove or most of Nove. So as a result, after so many days, it turned out to be false. It is fake news. So be careful of your sources or where you capture your, where you watch your reports. So keep track who is always lying to you. Over at Donetsk itself, there is some fighting reported in this area here, but not much is known. At Kharkiv, there is an artillery strike on Ukrainian positions. So that's about it from this area here. And that's all for the Bakhmut Front. We move into the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, this is also one of the front line that is starting to burn, to look very serious. Russian forces are attacking in multiple directions at Bilohorivka, over at Zolotarivka, Vakum Okanyamsky, Sperne, towards Vimka, as well as Rozdolivka. So multiple directions. The offensive operations here seems to be moving, but it doesn't look to be very intense. It's not like the situation at Avdiivka. Because this army group have to cover many fronts, including Bakhmut Front, Donetsk Front, as well as the Siversk Front. But the operations are happening, and it's all reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry themselves. So we will wait and see how this progress. Vakum Okanyamsky, there is Ukrainian forces capturing some grounds back. We have mentioned this in the Frontline Changes report. They retake a position that was previously captured by the Russians, but it's just a very small little ground. So we will continue to monitor. I'm not sure if this is a diversionary attempt to create panic on the Ukrainian side to force the Ukrainians to send more forces into the Siversk Front, or is this a legitimate attempt to attack this front and capture this front line? Currently we're not so sure. So over the Kreminna Front. At the Kreminna Front, things are also starting to get more and more fiercer, with Russian forces attacking Terny, Yampolivka, Torske, and Seremenske Forestry. Ukrainian forces counterattack over at the Kharkiv region. So this is the strategic situation. This front line has been quiet for a long time, and recent days it started to get active again. And we shall wait and see. And at the Svatove Front, the same thing is currently happening as well. Russian forces are activating this front line as well, with fighting reported at Novoselivske, Stemakivka, Nadia, and over at this area of Novoyehorivka. So the Russian forces are also activating this front line over at Svatove. So it's getting really scary for the Ukrainians, because the Russians are now pushing everywhere all over again. So we'll wait and see how this progress. The Nadia one is the latest new one. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they reported this, as well as Novoyehorivka. So we will definitely have to wait, monitor and see how this progress, because this is scary. And we move into the Kupyansk Front. Kupyansk Front, surprisingly, is quiet. So the Russian forces have maybe created enough distraction to push Ukrainian forces into this area to defend, and then they decided not to attack here. So this is the situation, and if you zoom out a bit, you'll see that the Russian forces are attacking in multiple front lines. They are putting some pressure over at this Robotyne region. They are attacking over at the Velika Novoselka sector. They are attacking over at the Voleda sector, the Marinka sector, what is that front line called? Krasnohorivka. And then they are making this massive push over at Avdiivka. They are attacking over at Bakhmut Front towards the Chasivia direction. They are also activating the Siversk Front, activating the Kreminna Front, activating the Svatove Front. So this is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. There's just way so much things. No, so even if the America have activated, not activated, but they actually approved. Actually, it's not even approved. It's not signed yet. They still need to go through the Senate. $60 billion. Most of these $60 billion are not coming to Ukraine. Only 20 to 25% of the money actually goes to Ukraine. So if you're talking about $20 billion, let's say it's 20 billion, 1/3 of it go to Ukraine, it's still not enough. It's barely enough. So this is the current situation that is facing Ukraine. And over in the border regions, over the Kharkiv Front, there is a multiple geolocation of there's a airstrike at Slobozhansky, and then there's another missile strike reported over at this area. Is what's this place called? Kayana Yaruha, nearby there. And in the northern part of Kharkiv, there's a antenna, a TV tower getting destroyed. And these are the situation around here. Destroying a TV antenna is a bit weird. I wonder if it was something to do with the antenna being militarized to use to help the Ukrainian forces to project their radio frequency, their radio coverage for their drones to operate. I wonder if that's the case. So maybe the antenna is being identified as a military target, which is why it was destroyed. So we'll wait and see how this goes. So this is the comprehensive summary for the past 3 days. So I'm so sorry I didn't manage to do a daily report. And yesterday, I actually wanted to do it yesterday night after the Frontline Changes report, but I burnt out. I really burnt out. I was unable to do the Frontline Changes unable to do the SITREP yesterday. So yeah, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Of course, as I mentioned, this map is now back to public. You can actually check it out. You can actually fact check me, and there's also actually the link to the archive that will show you all the maps since day one. So you can fact check me. You can check all my sources. Everything is open, and also do consider supporting DPA on Patreon. It is through the patrons that allows the operation to continue over at DPA. The viewership numbers are very poor, and there's nothing I can do about it because YouTube do not want to push it, or maybe the new algorithm that they employ is just biased towards bigger channels. Then there's nothing I can do about it. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.